Yeah, so a lot of people might think that I'm trying to throw somebody under the bus or something. I'm just speaking on it, I feel like where there's injustice done, that there should be fair and just treatment to all in terms of when you commit the crime, you gotta do the time. I mean, when crimes are committed and you're actually accused and um, convicted of the crime, then you, generally speaking, you're supposed to do the time. So like I said, if they talk about it, I'm gonna speak on it. If you are a human being, your life matters. No matter what nationality you are, all lives matter. And supposedly under the Constitution, you are innocent until proven guilty. We know this is not to be the case. Defund the police. The police are bad. Why are white cops killing black people? I don't think that's really the question or the answer. Um, Question should be, why are people killing people? You know, why are people exhibiting inhumane and unjust treatment to human life? No matter what nationality you are, you have to look, you know, you have to look at it objectively. Um, you have black on black crime on the street, and you also have black on black crime on the beat. You know, when I was growing up, there were officers, white and black officers, that were both the same. They wouldn't hesitate to shoot. Didn't matter. They're on the same team. Basically they're in every hood. In my hood growing up, we had to watch out for Pac-Man. He was a police officer, who just happened to be a white cop, but there was more than just him. There were black cops, Asian cops, Indian cops, cops of all nationalities with the same mindset. Uh, you know, Me as a young black male, or my peers as young black males, as well as young black adolescent teenagers, um, the mindset was we were guilty before proven innocent, a threat on the street to be eliminated or incarcerated. Didn't matter how, but it was basically, that was the main goal. Um, it was, by all means, you could go away in handcuffs or you could go out in a body bag. So this brings me to the topic that no one seems to be covering or talking about except for one individual on the internet. Freedom of Freedom of Information Act. An incident took place February 6, 2021. A police trooper involved in a fatal shooting in South Carolina, Cassandra Dollar, had a high-speed chase with a car. It was going 100 miles per hour. She chased the assailant 8 miles. Then the assailant, Robert Langley, crashed his car into um, a ditch. It looks like he crashed. In the video, it looks like he crashed into a pole off the side of the road in a ditch. Video shows the officer getting out of her police car, brandishing her weapon. She gets out of her police car. Video shows her running around the front of her police cruiser to the passenger side of the assailant's car, and she's running over to that car that's in the ditch. And then the video shows her slip into the ditch, and as she um, slips into the ditch, it shows her basically trying to get up, and she's panicking. And as she tries to get up and continues to stumble um, in the ditch, at that very same time, the assailant, Robert Langley, tries to get out of the car coming from the driver's side through the car to get out of the passenger side door um, of the vehicle. Cassandra Dollar was in point blank range of the suspect and could clearly see the suspect, but Video shows she clearly panicked in the heat of the moment and reacted inappropriately. She reacted before fully assessing the scene. She reacted before thinking and took an innocent man's life by shooting him in the chest with one fatal shot fired. The video shows that this woman clearly was unfit to do the job, and the officer clearly weighs about 300 pounds, which is morbidly obese for the job, or at least in my opinion. To do to do the job and to be on duty in the field, you have to be in physical shape as well as mentally sound. You can't have fear in your heart when you're doing a job knowing there's a possibility of losing your own life or possibly taking someone else's life. You cannot do this job with your emotions. You have to follow strict protocol. The officer ran up on the car unprepared with the situation on hand, and she fell into a ditch. As the man tried to get out of the car, the officer panicked and shot the man dead with no hesitation. It looked like an assassination. I mean, it did not look like any normal police protocol was being followed. Um, it's just basically um, it's basically it looked like she murdered this person. Um, I mean, I hate to say it in that manner, but that's what the video shows. Um, you know, I did not look. I'm sorry, it did not look like police protocol in regards to an arrest. She said she thought she saw something. This was poor police training. She could have stayed back at her police cruiser with her gun on the assailant and told the assailant to get out of the car and walk backwards, to put his hands in the air, put his hands on top of his head, get down on his knees, lay down on the ground. She could have waited for backup while the man stayed still on the ground. This woman has already been fired from 3 other police agencies specifically for poor decision making on the job. It's obvious to see that this woman is not in shape and was not well trained for the job tasked to her, and is not mentally capable of making rational decisions under pressure. She has had no business working in law enforcement other than being a meter maid or maybe an administrative clerk. I don't know how she ever made sergeant. Sergeant Dollar was fired after the video came out. She is looking at a possible 2 to 30-year sentence. This is a police shooting that got little to no coverage. My guess is it doesn't fit the narrative simply because Black Lives Matter. I'm not against Black Lives Matter. On the contrary, but I am against only Black Lives Matter, especially when it's to push a narrative, to basically incite a riot amongst communities and authorities, which this is what generally happens. This was a black on black crime. People might think I'm wrong, but I would feel this woman should do the time for the crime. Don't misunderstand me. The laws have never been fair for blacks or any other nationality other than whites. So, of course, this individual will probably receive a sentence that will not reflect the same sentence as a white officer would receive. That's why I said the system always is out to deceive, the people. All lives matter. Everyone should be treated equally, and um and everyone should be treated equally and proven innocent until proven guilty. You know, if proven guilty, you should do the crime for the time. I mean, you should do the time for the crime for whatever that crime is that you committed. What's so sad about this whole scenario is a white man kills a black man and he's free to roam the land, a black man kills a black man and he goes to jail for life, just think if it was me and I shot a black man, or an officer, or a person of any nationality for that matter, 9 times out of 10 I would be facing life in prison, if not the death penalty. Not to condemn the fate of the officer involved in the shooting, but justice should be served when there is an unjust crime that is done and you are convicted of it. You should serve the time for the crime. But unfortunately, like I said, we know that not to be the case. Um, you have a perfect example of the doublethink scenario that we live under, that's governed today. Just think about this one. It's true. You have on November 5th, 2010, Officer Measurely, who shot Oscar Grant basically in cold blood, a cold blooded shooting. I call it an assassination. This man was at a BART station. On the BART platform, a police officer that officially didn't work for the police department but for the BART police. Um, Basically, as for Oscar Grant, uh, he was detained. He was on the ground, on his back, unarmed, and was shot in the back by the police officer, Officer Measurely. And this man, Measurely, receives a slap on the wrist. Whether he was not trained properly, not physically or mentally fit to do the job, or just a racist, he was he committed a crime, he was convicted of a crime, he murdered a man, basically in cold blood. If you ask me, it was an assassination of a man. Um, but he did not do the time for the crime. He was a white man. I don't say this lightly, but it's the truth. The man who shot and killed, um, the man who was shot and killed in the incident, um, just so happened to be, a black man in terms of the previous incident with Cassandra Dollar. And, that man was shot by a black cop. But the incident with Measurely was that he was a white officer who shot and killed a black man on November 5th, 2010. Measurely was sentenced to 2 years minus time served. He served time in Los Angeles County Jail protective custody and was held in a private cell for his own safety. June 13th, 2011, Measurely was released under parole after serving only 11 months of incarceration. So you see, the reality is it's not a black or a brown or tan, or it's not a nationality thing, it's a human being thing. It's that all lives matter, and that all people should be treated equally and fair, as well as treated equally and fair when crimes have been committed. If convicted, people need to do the time for the crime. People really need to learn to treat each other the way that they want to be treated, and basically at all times stand up for what is right and put down all things that are wrong. Not, like I said, not to put the officer on trial for her misdeed, but and I understand that mistakes are made, but it's pretty hard to say, murder or manslaughter is a mistake, um, especially when there were plenty of other alternative routes that the officer could have taken to prevent the death of an innocent man. Um, They searched the car. There was no weapon found. The man had no weapon. Maybe he threw it out the window. Maybe he threw drugs out the window. Who knows why he was running? But the point was, when he got killed, he was not armed and he was not a threat. and there was a better way to diffuse the situation and handle the threat that was on hand in terms of apprehending a criminal if you're law enforcement, especially if you're trained law enforcement and you're physically and mentally fit to do the job. Same thing with Officer Measurely. If you're mentally and physically fit to do the job and you're of sound mind, you've been trained, and you don't have racism as your ulterior motive, then I feel that, life can be saved instead of lost or taken. Um, Simple and plain, the world that we live in is unfair and unjust no matter how you look at it. So we as people need to do a better job to make the world a better place. We as people need to learn to treat one another fair and equal and basically not pass judgment.